Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar presented by OpenSpace and Boldt. We appreciate you joining us today. There's a couple of housekeeping items I'd like to go over before we get started. My name is Eileen Goldberg. I'll be your moderator for those of you who aren't familiar with me and joined a webinar before. This webinar is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be available on our 2020 Congress page, lcicongress.org/2020. It will be up there by the end of the week. When you see a red asterisk to the left of the OpenSpace logo, click on that OpenSpace logo, you'll come directly to the webinar. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our OpenSpace panel. Thanks so much, you guys.
Great, thanks Eileen. This is Tom Felice, and I'm here with Scott and Robert from the panel here today. Just a quick background on us. You can see here on the screen, I actually used to work for Boldt, but I'm at OpenSpace. I'm the director of sales now. Scott is a PM for Boldt, and he's going to be telling you a little bit about how Bolt's been using it. And Robert here is also with OpenSpace, formerly of Autodesk, the reality capture division. And we're excited to kind of tell you about what OpenSpace has to offer as it relates to capturing your projects in full 360. So before we get started, I just wanted to give a quick overview of what OpenSpace is and what problem we're trying to solve. As people are aware, there's a lack of transparency today in construction, and that leads to a lot of conflict and rework and waste, which is a big keyword for lean construction. And so the biggest problem in that is there's really not a single shared version of reality, and everyone kind of creates their own. There's a lot of finger pointing. Really what OpenSpace enables the team to do is that through a simple 360 camera that's mounted to a hard hat, you can use computer vision and AI, and actually as the person walks the job, you're able to capture the entire project in full 360, and it's automatically mapped to the floor plan so that when you log into your iPhone or your web browser or your laptop, you can see exactly what happened on the job site, automatically time, date, and location stamped. We're going to show you kind of how that all works and give you some examples of how Boldt has deployed this, especially with everything that's going on with COVID and not being able to get to job sites. A tool like OpenSpace that kind of brings that single source of truth and reality to projects by virtually allowing teams to walk the job site without having to be there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and actually pass it over to Scott, and Scott can tell you a little bit about how they've been using it at Boldt.
All right, thanks, Tom. Good morning. Scott Lowasser, project manager and BIM VDC manager with Boldt. Just a real fast introduction to who we are. We have 14 offices nationwide, roughly $1 billion in annual volume. We're a construction manager and general contractor. Been in business for around 130 years. I've been with them for the last 9 or so. So I personally work out of the Madison, Milwaukee, and Chicago offices. So we've been deploying OpenSpace in a couple of these markets. We started working with OpenSpace right back in the start of the pandemic, kind of the stay-at-home orders. So I think we started our first project in the beginning of April, recognizing the need. With that, we internally love to share our small wins across the company. We have a program with small wins. If it makes sense, just do it. So we just internally produced a video about the use of OpenSpace at a couple of the projects that first started using it in April and May to kind of share the experience and share the win. And it's turned into a great way to kind of spread the use cases that we were seeing. So we thought that would be a great introduction to the use at Boldt and wanted to share that with you all right now. OpenSpace is essentially like Google Street View for construction. It gives you full 360-degree photos that you can navigate and click around, jumping between all the different photos, so you can virtually walk your job site anywhere in the world at any time.
Somebody is actually walking on site with a camera on their hard hat, and every half second it is taking a photo, and it will actually take those photos onto a plan set and document where those photos took place.
We can compare it to the BIM model and see, what's not complete compared to the model, and know exactly what we have to schedule going forward in our weekly planning sessions.
I've been able to use it during COVID state for owner walkthroughs to document things like in-wall inspections and box placements to really help communicate our design and our construction to the architects, the engineers, the owners, and the end users who can't walk the space currently.
Our architect engineering team, they're able to continue looking at issues. We had great examples where the second we were doing the walks, people were looking at the pictures and seeing the social distancing.
We're trying to limit the people on our sites, but they're still able to get a good feel for the progress and the urgency to which design decisions need to happen.
We have teams that are spread out so far geographically that can't always make it to site every week. Now they can see it multiple times a week with the status changes that are happening. We can use this to look and track our productivity across all of our crews, holding people accountable with earned value management.
Every minute of every day needs to be spent productively. OpenSpace really has allowed me to do that. The initial thoughts around it were that this was going to serve as a COVID reaction. The more I reflect on it, I really think this software is going to go beyond just the current time.
So we found through our use of OpenSpace so far incredible value that we're going to continue carrying forward in this project and projects to come.
All of our projects should be looking at how can OpenSpace provide value for them, for not only them but also the owner, the design team, to have more access to our job sites, especially during these times.
There's tons of aspects that we're still uncovering, and we're documenting all of the really cool use cases that people are coming up with. All right, I love hearing myself talk. So we currently have around 7 active projects, healthcare, commercial, new construction, renovation, really kind of all over the board for the types of projects. This was just a quick little peek from yesterday of 3 of the projects on the splash screen. What's really cool to see is when you look at it, 63 members, 83 members, 92 members. We're getting a ton of people involved, just cross-disciplinary across the entire project. So we're seeing our whole internal project management across Boldt, and then also all of our trade partners. But then we're getting the architect and design team. We're getting the owner. We're getting a lot of their transition and activation teams. We're getting some of our fabricators. We've got the mill worker that wants to see the status of the project, so he knows when to come out to field verify for all the casework that has to be installed. He can keep a pulse on it without us having to send him a notice every week of, all right, not yet. So it's really cool. And then the captures, 62 captures in the last 30 days on the one project in 8 weeks in a row. So there's a ton of data that's being fed into the program that's being shared for everyone. So it's like Tom mentioned, it's a single source of truth for everyone to be able to come and look at what is the current state and where have we been. Just looking at some use cases then, progress tracking, production planning has been huge. That's one of the first areas that we picked up with it, where during some of the stay-at-home orders, we had not a lot of people able to come to the job site. So it was tough to know, what were the crews getting done for the week. It's gotten better now, but it's taken root as a great tool to minimize the amount of time people need to be spending walking the job site to see the status. During the stay-at-home, we had people that were doing FaceTimes of issues on the job site, or taking tons of pictures and trying to find a way to document, where was this taken? So it's just not a great use of talent. That's one of, touching on the 8 wastes, unutilized talent. We're waiting for pictures. So we're able to keep doing that and have, it's fantastically simple. So we have my interns running out and doing the walkthroughs. We have field engineers. We have some project managers that are doing it themselves. Anyone can pick it up and do it. In-wall and above ceiling inspections have also been done virtually. We had a couple of really great instances recently where, unfortunately, an engineering firm, their entire office was quarantined because someone had COVID. So we would have normally had to put off doing our inspections for 2 weeks, but we were able to do it virtually and have everyone walk through and then do a virtual review meeting where we went through the open space walk and were able to track down if there were any issues to flag. We have people jumping in right when the photos are posted to see, hey, here's an issue, and raise it up to everyone. I've been a part of a couple really cool meetings where we have stakeholder tours. We walk through virtual user groups to show them what their future project's going to look like, since we're not taking 30, 40 people groups through. So we had the open space photos on the left side and the model on the right side to show them the design intent, and able to take a lot of questions, and they loved it. It was really cool. Safety reviews, we're finding, not trying to find issues that already happened, but looking at what's to come. So an instance of a project manager reviewing a really difficult condition to build on the roof for a parapet with the foreman, and instead of having to walk out to the job site, spend 15 minutes walking out and back and getting up there on the roof, pull it up on an open space and just talk through, how are we going to build this? What does this look like right now? How are we going to do this safely? So instead of a lot of the hand waving and trying to gesture and think about what that condition looked like, they can just see it for real. Other cool things, I just last Friday I was talking with the team. We have an office building that's working with OpenSpace right now, and the architect is down in the southern United States. So it's been huge for them to understand the progress of construction throughout the life of this project. One thing that they usually do is they would fly out a branding team to walk the job and understand where signage should go. And instead of that, we just did an open space walk, and they could see the final or close to final project. I mean, that alone is huge for a use case, and the cost to fly a couple of people out for a couple of days to look at branding versus we can just do the one walk and we can see it. So it's really been the single source of truth and transparency where the owner knows exactly what's going on with the project. We found great references already going back to look at old photos to see what was done. One of the projects on the splash page before was a surgery renovation project, which is 4 phases. So we've already found ourselves going back to look at what were we doing during this phase that we can apply then to the next phase, and have, instead of trying to remember it and look at our scribbles in our notebooks, we have perfect references on a plan of exactly what we did. So what did we like? What did we not like? What can we carry forward? There's also, like, during demolition, it's really tough to get in there. We've got people coming from all over to see what's going on. So we're walking this multiple times a week during demo as well, and we can identify existing conditions that we didn't know were there and start trying to plan how are we going to resolve those? What are the countermeasures we're going to put in place? So honestly, it's really exciting to talk to all these different teams internally on these 7 different projects and hear the use cases, because there isn't one single best use case. There's so many of them. It's really exciting. Just thinking about the 8 wastes, there's a lot of waiting for people to take these photos and get them to who they need to go to on the other end. We've got architect teams more and more nowadays, engineer teams, our contractors. Everyone's working in different cities and commuting. We don't have time to drive around all the different job sites, especially with COVID right now. We've got people tied up taking photos when they could be doing other things, so we're not using that talent. We've got all this motion going around to the job sites and all this extra processing. We used to have people, taking the photos, linking them to plans, saving them to a couple of different folders. That's just all this extra processing that doesn't need to happen anymore. One cool project I wanted to touch on, it was on the splash screen before, but right now we are working on the STAAT MOD project. Some of you might have heard of this before. It's a strategic temporary acutely adaptable treatment. It's essentially a modular prefabricated hospital. We've got a couple of installations now, and I've been a part of this most recent project where we're just finishing up a deployment several states away from home. We have 2 separate cities in Wisconsin that we've been fabricating this in, assembly lines for the buildings, where then we ship it down. We're working several states away and for the install. So we've got 3 separate cities that we deployed in for one project, where we're taking photos daily in the fabrication facility so we can track the status of these mods and then understand, the in-wall and above ceiling and all that, because these things are cranking, it's going fast. And then when it's on the job site, we're also taking daily site walks so we can see the status of the foundations that are being built in advance of these mods being delivered. Now that they're on site, we're doing walks daily as well on the inside of the building so we can have that transparency. Everyone knows the status. This owner is never coming up to our fabrication facility, but they knew everything that was going on. I myself have been doing all the BIM VDC coordination and just pre-construction coordination for the project from my house. Welcome to my house. I'm never going to visit the job site, but I feel like I know exactly what's going on every day and know the status and can quickly see the issues and help that team to resolve those issues and pull up the model and kind of guide them through what's going to be the best solution. So it's been a fantastic tool. I feel like I'm there. I'm not. Same for the fabrication facility. I was up there once or twice, but I'm not there every day, but I know what's going on. So it's incredibly powerful to have that connection across the project. I mean, it's crazy to think we're in 3 different cities building the same project. It's an awesome project to be a part of. So I'll throw it back to Tom and take us through some of the upcoming tools.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And just great to hear those stories. And I think the biggest thing about OpenSpace and why people use it so much and use it every day is because it's simple, it's easy, and it's fast. I mean, you saw the video. All they're doing is attaching a 360 camera to the hard hat and walking the job like they normally would. And because of that, we're actually, in our short time that we've been around since late 2017, really 2018, we've captured over 1.5 billion square feet and counting of commercial real estate of various different projects, from hospitals to heavy civil to you name it. We've done everything in between, and because of that, we're able to capture a ton of images. Because there really is no infrastructure involved in this, it doesn't involve a data connection. It doesn't involve Wi-Fi on the job site. There's an internally built Wi-Fi into the camera that connects to the phone. And I mean, obviously, when you go back to upload all of this data, you do need to view it and store it in the cloud. But that has enabled us to expand across many different countries in this short period of time. And that really leads us to where we're going as a company in the future. Obviously, we're gathering a lot of information that's super useful. And the founders of the company all, have computer vision and machine learning backgrounds, PhDs from MIT, and they're actually are able to harvest and gather a lot of this information and create classifiers. And do some really interesting things on how to analyze and see how this information actually can be useful. So Scott mentioned a lot of great use cases that the teams are getting value from today. But as I kind of go into this, you can kind of see my screen here. Can you guys? Yeah, you guys can see it, right? Okay, great. So I mean, this is just a live look inside OpenSpace. So as Scott was saying, and from the video, anyone can log in as long as you have a secure username and password. You can get into the website and you can share this with whoever. You can scroll around. Because it's a 360 camera, in case this wasn't apparent, you're capturing everything. So not just a photo that was taken on a job that again has to be tagged back later, but you have everything automatically geotagged, and you can navigate via these blue circles, or you can actually navigate via these the floor plan as well, because all of these images are automatically tagged and located to the floor plan for you, again using the same machine learning algorithms and AI that I mentioned before, that kind of makes this super accurate and really really simple and easy for the teams to gather. And then so we're starting to do some things like be able to, for example, bound box objects, and this is a great example of inventory. Again, another one of the 8 forms of waste. So you can start to, put a bound box around a stack of drywall, and you can start to search and find all of those stacks of drywall on the project, so you can see exactly where inventory is being stored. You know, just another use case of how this can be leveraged in construction to not only, you know, see exactly what's going on and share that with the team, but understand, you know, how you can, you know, reduce that amount of inventory on the project. You know, I'm going to pass it over to Robert. And Robert, he's going to talk a little bit more about what we're doing with this information and how we're able to actually use this to gain some insights into the project. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to show this. I mean, this is always a crowd pleaser, being able to compare this throughout time, so you can actually see the project change as it progresses. So you can kind of see, you know, that same location from, you know, multiple different time period, and you can see exactly, again, what's behind the wall, what's above the ceiling. So you don't have to go in there and do a bunch of rework, another form of waste where you can have to tear out things because you don't know what's behind the wall or the backing. So with that, you know, Robert, you know, why don't you go ahead and tell a little bit about what we're doing with all this information?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So I think the key point here is, if you think about one of the previous slides, 150 million images or thereabouts, 1.5 billion square feet, those are all located timestamp sequence construction images, right? So there's a ton of information in there. And so what we're moving with this thing called ClearSight, that's our name for it, is to really turn all of those images into a spatial index of your project, a spatial searchable index of your project. So yes, you have all the Google Street View stuff that Scott talked about, the coordination, the collaboration. I've got a whole bunch of notes of classic Scott notes here, right? It's fantastically simple. See it for real, set of scribbles. I've got a perfect reference of the plan. So those are all just right in line with the main use case. But the point here is that this is also more than that. So by training the system to see stuff, we can track it. And so in this case, I'm just showing I'm just going to touch on it real quick, one of our classifiers here that can find top track, stud framing, sheetrock on the front of the wall, sheetrock on the back of the wall. It also can find bad insulation, hard foam insulation, dense glass. And so you get the idea. We're sort of building a framing and drywall classifier that can track stuff. So Tom, next slide. Yep. So what that looks like, yeah, there you go. What that looks like on an actual project is this, right? So we'll then take those classifiers, we'll merge them with your material takeoffs, and we'll align them to your plan, just like we align the track to the plan. In this case, you see September 14th there, the top left red box. You see that some of the walls haven't started, but 79% have been framed. Go one more slide, Tom. And now we're at, oops, up one. Sorry, you went two. Now we're at September 21st, and you see that all the walls have started. In fact, they're all complete, the 99% framing there on the right. And then we do the same for insulation and drywall. So just a sneak peek at what value is in these images beyond the collaboration. And then my last slide is, of course, once we start doing this, Tom, you go forward one. Once we start doing this over a sequence of days or weeks, we can then start tracking productivity. How is your team doing relative to last week? We don't get in the middle of the schedule or exactly how many people are deployed, but we are getting pretty damn good at tracking work in place and being able to give you a very accurate representation of that in an automated way that is, you know, a little more less prone to, oops, I forgot to track that side of the floor, or less prone to manipulations, but that way in the project. I think that's it for me. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, no, thanks. And, you know, just to kind of recap, because, you know, this is a lean construction webinar, and, you know, I'm really passionate about lean. Before I got into the technology world, I actually worked as a project engineer and a lean manager on construction sites, mostly building hospitals on the west coast of California for a few different companies, one of being Boldt. And so I would be teaching a lot about the value of the last planner system, you know, the ways we can create value and flow on the job sites, and you know, how we reduce waste. And really, Scott mentioned this before, but it's worth repeating. I mean, OpenSpace really hits all 8 ways that we're, reducing waste on the project job site, whether it's, just avoiding trips to the job site, virtually visiting. Scott mentioned, not having, 3 different cities are collaborating on one project, and a project that would normally have a team fly in is now virtually collaborating. I gave the example of the inventory, being able to use object search to, get a count of material and usage, and ClearSight is going to help with that as well. I mean, just the ability not to have to go through a bunch of different photos and go back and have to find that exact issue to locate. You can automatically go to the location you're talking about and find that and attach it to an RFI. It just makes the processing of information and the access of information a lot more. I don't know, Scott, if you wanted to chat about any of these other wastes, but I think you gave some good examples earlier. Obviously, rework is a big one. Defects, like, that's just naturally reduced by just having better transparency and coordination.
I'll say we're super excited to try some of the newer tools of looking at the production tracking and tie that directly into earned value management and be able to take this data, use it for so many other things. It really does touch on all the different 8 wastes, and then the whole concept of lean of reduce waste and add value. This is a tool that definitely helps us. It adds value itself and helps to add value to the project overall. So it's really exciting the direction it's going.
Yeah, we're really excited to be, and I know that the Lean Congress is next week, and you guys are all probably excited. Well, not as usually it's a time for me to come and meet up with old colleagues of mine in person. I know this year we're gonna have to adapt a little bit, but with this new world that we're living in, it's a tool like OpenSpace is not going to just be a trend. I think this is the way we're going to be able to collaborate moving forward, and I just encourage all of you to please reach out and go to our website, reach out to me directly. My information's here. Visit our booth at LCI, and let's figure out how we can do all this together. And I appreciate you guys taking the time. I know we're running 2 minutes here to the bottom of the hour, but if there's any questions or any other issues, please reach out to me. We'd love to figure out how we can add value, like we've done with Boldt and many other top E&R companies.
So I have a question here, and I think it's going to go to Scott. Scott, what is the one thing about OpenSpace that you think has helped Boldt, I apologize, the most in going through with its projects and collaboration and getting rid of some of the 8 wastes?
Oh gosh.
I'm putting you on the spot. I know this question is
I don't know if I can name
one
thing, because you heard me ramble on forever about all the things. There's so many.
I don't know if it was rambling. It was really good conversation and case studies. But the question is, a specific, even if it's a really general, but what thing about OpenSpace is just like that aha moment? Where you went,
honestly,
wow,
I've had a couple conversations with people, and Tom described it really well before of how it uses computer vision to map it to a floor plan. We like to call it voodoo magic because we don't understand it. But how it links right to your floor plan and you can instantly share the progress of a job, it is like voodoo magic. It's crazy how it knows exactly where you're walking. All you have to do is hit start and tell it where you are. How quickly you can share, you can do a walk and instantly share it to your team of 80 people of exactly the status of the job site. It is like magic.
Well, perfect. And that does put us out of time. LCI would like to thank the OpenSpace team and our Boldt guest for presenting for us this afternoon. Excuse me, it's still morning. My apologies, this morning. Please, as Tom mentioned, feel free to visit them at the LCI Congress booth. Click on exhibits up in the menu bar. They are one of our premium exhibitors, so we'd like to thank them for that as well. We'd also like to thank you for attending, and we hope to see you on a future webinar. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Aileen.